Every episode celebrates original content written by real people who experience real emotions. I'm Rayanne Thorn Krueger. Welcome to Real Words. Hey everybody, welcome to Real Words today. This is a very exciting episode. I have a special guest today, Sydney McClellon, also known as S.A. McClellon, the author. Welcome, Sydney, to the show.
Hello, it's so nice to meet you guys.
Thanks for joining. I'm really happy to have you here. If you're having trouble viewing, for some reason, Real Words, which is my streaming platform, has decided to either stream video or to stream audio. So if you're having trouble viewing, I'm sorry about that. You will be able to view it afterward when I upload the file. So I hope you hang around and actually join us for the audio. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask whatever platform you're on. I'll try to get to those during our conversation. Sydney, why don't you give us a brief rundown of your history and where you are now?
Absolutely. So, like she said before, I'm S.A. McClellon, but I also go by Sydney or Sid, and I am an author. I've been writing for, oh goodness, pretty much all my life, as far as I can remember. Probably my earliest memory of it was in middle school when I would, go to Barnes and Noble with my grandmother and like get these little journals and just write a bunch of stories in there. But I officially I self-published my first book called Fool's Gold in, I believe, 2020, 2021, and the sequel to that in 2020, either 2022 or 2023. But those two books, they coincide with each other. They're like these Victorian period dramas that I just, kind of wrote and put out, see what would happen. But my current project, Brown Sugar Divine's Cafe and Bakery, which is a story set in Denton, Texas, where I'm currently in now. And it's about a drag queen who owns a cafe and bakery. That's my first really big project that I'm going to be putting out later this month in July.
Well, congratulations on that. I'm really excited for you.
Thank you so much.
Now, writing this book, fresh out of college, I know you graduated just a year ago.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. Not many young adults your age have the impetus to do that. What drove this project for you?
So just the writing portion of it, it's just something that I enjoy. I have a very active imagination. I just like to write stories, come up with, new things, get inspired by things that I watch or I read and see like what I can come up with in conjunction to that. But for this story in particular, this is going to sound really cliche, but this actually came to me in a dream that I had, like a really dream that I had one night. And I remember waking up in a cold sweat, writing it down in my notes app in my phone, and then going right back to sleep. And it just kind of
Wow.
sat there for a few months because by the time that dream came, I was still trying to finish up college. So I just like had the itch to write one day, and I wasn't really sure like what to write. So I just went through like that notes app that I had with a bunch of plots that I, had written down, and that one in particular stood out to me. So that's the one that I like played with for a little bit, and now I'm about to publish it.
I have dreams similar to that. Maybe not about a drag queen in in a cafe, but where I feel like, oh, this is going to be a great story. I need to write it down, and then whenever I go back to those notes, I don't always remember that I wrote that down. Now, did you have a clear memory of
I did,
having that dream?
I did not. Like the memory is very fuzzy because again, it's like 3 a.m. I'm waking up, like instinctively writing, like going on my phone, which is probably a generational thing. It's like we're
Sure.
constantly on our phones all the time. And then I just went back to sleep. Then I wake up. I remember like, oh, there's something in my notes app, but I don't remember writing it down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing you had the notes app because here we are celebrating your book and it's getting ready to be launched.
Mhm.
How hard was it? Now, what's the time frame when you finished writing to when you tried to find a publisher?
So probably, well, I should first say that when I first sought out a publisher, it wasn't completely done yet. I only had
Okay.
the first like couple of chapters, like the first rough draft of the couple of chapters finished. That's when I was just kind of browsing around, seeing like, what publishing company would be open to accepting an unfinished manuscript, especially from an author who's so new, which is how I found Introverted Soul Collective Press, my now ex-publisher. And, at first they, sold themselves to be like, really open and, catered to, new authors. But, that's like a whole other can of worms that we're about to get into soon.
Right, right. And how difficult was it? I mean, when you think about the process of securing a publisher, did it require more work than you anticipated, or was it easier?
It wasn't too difficult. One thing that I will credit them for is that they're very flexible, and like when a project gets done, like they didn't really set any set deadlines for me. Like I prefer to usually like set my own deadlines anyway, just so I can like keep myself at my own pace. So like that is something that I will credit them for, is that like um, they're very reasonable when it comes to deadlines, and like if something is going to be late, I make sure to let them know like as ahead of time as I can, like, hey, like I'm falling a little bit behind, but this is where we're at.
And did they give you any kind of reward, or hey, hang around, we want to publish this book?
So along with signing the initial contract, they did offer me an editing internship, because at the time I was still looking for a writing job within my field. I'm still kind of looking right now while I'm putting out these projects. So they did give me an internship just for editing some other books. The one book that I was able to edit was for an actor named Van Quattro. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
No.
he was a minor actor in Fight Club. Which,
Oh, okay.
yeah, which is like kind of cool, because I just decided like just to see if he had anything else out, like who this guy was, and then I saw like, oh my god, he was in Fight Club. Like, hello.
That's pretty cool first editing project there.
You're right.
That's fun.
Mhm.
So this takes us to what's happening. I'm calling it the AI cover art battle. So give us a little explanation about what went down, and then I'd love to find out if you feel like it has been worth it. So
Right.
tell us a little bit about the battle that you've
So,
had before you.
so essentially, what happened is pretty much all this happened in like pretty much last week. So initially, my release date was supposed to be on June 30th. At the time of this recording, is now July 2nd, and while everything was being finalized and like everything was edited, we had discussed the book cover, because the main issue was with the book cover. So for the book cover, I had commissioned an artist. She goes by Spearmint professionally online, and I've been following her for a couple of years now. She has a webtoon series called Brimstone and Roses on the app Webtoons. It's very good. She's a very
Okay.
talented artist. You also go check her out. And I knew right off the bat that I was going to have to like pay for her out of pocket, because she was an out of network artist, which like that wasn't a big deal. I had already prepared for that. I crowdfunded most of the money and paid for the rest out of my own pocket, which was fine. But come a week before the release date, my publisher had sent me a rough draft of what they wanted for the final cover. Now, take note of what they wanted, like not what I wanted as the author, who took 8 months to
Right.
write the thing. They sent me this AI image of the like of some sort of like cafe and bakery sort of building, and you can very clearly tell that it's AI as opposed to the hand drawn character design that I commissioned the artist for. And I had woken up one day, saw what the designer has sent, and I had to shut it. I tried to like shut it down really quick and tell her like, hey, I really don't want AI being used for this book cover, especially since I already went out of my way to commission an artist like for the book cover, and I don't want it to take away from the art that she did for the front cover. So I asked them to, at first I asked them to just take whatever background design they had for the front and just wrap it around to the back and just have like the plain text over it. Like that would have been immensely better than what they did, but
Right.
they doubled down um, on the AI. I should also note that before they tried to finalize everything, I sent them a very detailed email telling them that, like, hey, I understand that y'all are a small publishing company and, you might not have a lot of resources, but like using AI on a book cover, especially since you're like such a small company, is not a good look, like for yourselves and for the artists that are currently contracted with you. And even just recently, some major publishing companies have gotten in trouble,
Sure.
like for using AI for their book covers. And I told them,
That's movie studios too. I
and
mean, we're hearing about it. Yeah.
right, and then like the whole writer strike that happened, like back in May of like last year. That happened like right before I graduated, so that was already a red flag for the industry as a whole. But anyway, um, I told them all my concerns, told them that like y'all could get in trouble for this, like I could get blacklisted from like working any sort of like big or small companies who are heavily against AI. Like I will apply to like writing jobs, and they will tell you like if you make it to the sample writing phase, do not use AI because we can tell if you used AI, and you will be automatically like discounted like
Right.
the
Right.
interview process.
So you
But
can't use it in your writing.
yeah, can't use it right
And
at all.
ethically you shouldn't
You're right.
use it in your writing,
Mhm.
right? So were you paid by this publisher
So
with money?
I was not paid by the publisher.
Okay.
At least not right off the bat. Any money that they would have paid me would have been from any royalties that they got.
Okay. So your contract stated that you would be paid through royalties, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And you weren't paid for your internship,
No, it was an unpaid
right?
internship.
So it was a non-paid internship. So this company, and we're not saying any names
Yeah,
because
no names.
I know it's an ongoing battle right now, so we're not saying any names. But this company was benefiting from your work, your book, your manuscript, right? And you had paid an artist
Yes.
to create the cover image because you had this image in mind
Yes.
for you. Not only that, you wanted to support a real artist.
Yes, and along with the fact that I did have to do research for this project because even though I myself am an LGBT person, I do not know a whole lot about the drag community. So I interviewed four drag performers who are like absolutely amazing people, super supportive, but they also are very much against the use of AI. So not only is my reputation and the artist's reputation in jeopardy, like if they had like continue to publish this with my name on it, their careers probably would have been in jeopardy because, it's something that they don't agree with and their audience doesn't agree with. And I told Introverted Soul Collective Press all of this, but they doubled down on their decision. They sent me an email Tuesday, June 25th, saying that, hey, sorry, but we're going to, discount all of what you said anyways. And they low key, they did try to guilt trip me a little bit by saying like, oh, the designer took 6 hours to, pick out all the colors and all that. And in the nicest way possible, I told them like, well, okay, I understand that she maybe took a day to, write a program into a computer, but I took 8 months to write the book, and the artist took several weeks to,
Right.
draw just the character design itself. So that really doesn't hold a candle to it. And that's when I told them that I will not market this book if it has AI on it because I do not agree with it. The people who are involved do not agree with it. I told y'all like really 2 to 3 times now that I do not want AI on this book cover. So if y'all are doubling down on this decision, then I want my contract terminated. And so
And they did. They terminated your contract.
yes, they did terminate my contract. It was a pretty easy, speedy process. The only thing that I have to do now is re-edit the book because had I kept the edits that they did, which was really just grammar checks and all that,
Sure.
didn't really have any impact to the book itself, I would have had to pay $700 for that, and I wasn't about to do that. So
Yeah, to buy your own book back.
right,
Right.
so
I mean,
essentially,
you probably do have, because it's a smaller publishing company, probably because your contract wasn't clear and they didn't make you aware through all of this that this was going to be an issue at this point. You probably have a case,
right,
but
I,
is it worth it?
and I did
Is it
tell
worth it?
it at this point it definitely is worth it because
Okay.
I'll get into that in a second. But another thing is that they did not have an AI clause in their in their comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that was not something that was like made aware like to anybody else. So I let them know like, hey, if you're going to keep bringing authors onto sign with you, you need to let them know so that you can avoid situations like this.
Right.
But
Right.
when I terminated the contract, there was like that little like bit of internal guilt, like, oh, am I doing the right thing? Like, what am I going to do now? But I shared my experience on Twitter, which is how y'all found me,
Yep.
and there was so much love and so much support like from the writing community. I've gotten up from like I'm still a small account on Twitter, but I gained like maybe over 200 followers just because of that. Along with the fact that so many artists also saw the account and offered to redo my book cover for free, which is crazy because
Wow.
these are like talented people like offering their services to me for free. I am having a new book cover being worked on, and I do have the rights back to my book as of July 1st. Again, it's July 2nd, so I have full rights to my book back, and I'll
This
be.
is so new for you still. I mean, that
Yeah.
you are still going this is an ongoing process, learning
Mhm.
experience for you, right? So
Yes.
has the whole process with the publisher, the time that it took, the energy, the heartbreak that you've gone through,
Mhm.
has it been worth it?
I would say yes, it has been worth it. Even with, like the little bit of like heartbreak and panic that I had, it's a learning experience for me, and it's a learning experience for anyone who, saw my tweet thread and are currently like, I've had people comment on the post saying like, hey, I'm about to, sign with this publisher, and now I know to look out for this because, not just small publishers, but big publishers are also trying to force AI book covers onto
Right.
authors like without their consent. So I would say it's definitely been a worthy experience.
So in your contract, did it say that they had control of the cover art?
Uh, so they so the contract said, if I remember correctly, that they did have say in the final decision, but it wasn't very spelled like it was very vague on what those final decisions were.
Okay. So now you know going into this, if you were to go into this again, to really review everything,
Yes.
be prepared for questions, be prepared for disappointments, right?
Yes.
And that way you can head off disappointments for the future,
Right,
right?
because at the time when I signed the contract back in October of 2023, I was aware that AI, was, a thing that was trying to get off the ground. But after, going through this, I didn't realize how much, of an issue that it actually was. And I'm not discounting people who, might use AI for like little things, like, just in my personal opinion, I don't like the use of AI in really anything.
Right. Well, as a writer
Yeah.
and somebody who's newly graduated from college,
Hmm.
you know what you went through to develop your own projects.
Right.
To be creative on your own, it takes a lot of energy, and to feel like that is being co-opted or taken away is
Right.
hard. My guest today is S.A. McClellon, author, and I discovered Sid, when I was going through comments and posts on a Facebook group called Artist Against Generative AI. I joined this group in order to understand what artists are feeling, what they're going through, how AI has impacted their art, their livelihood, their mental well-being, because it does take its toll. Having this come in, we know it's been brewing for a long time. I mean, I've been talking about AI for about 15 years, and so we know it's been around for a long time, and we know it's not going away. AI is not going away, but we need to learn how to get along, how to get along with AI. And so, with that in mind, Sid, when you think about the onset of AI everything, do you think that we might be at risk of losing true creativity or real human creativity?
It's definitely a threat that's kind of not, I don't know if threat is the right word, but it is something that is steadily trying to emerge. I'm kind of chronically online, so I like see a lot of, the things that people are, trying to do with AI, whether it be artistically or like through search engines or writing essays. Because really, the first time I had really heard that AI was becoming a thing was in college when people were using ChatGPT to write their essays instead of just writing it themselves. And
like you're supposed to.
right, and like
Right?
as a writer, that was kind of like a pet peeve. And I had someone ask me like, "Hey, do you want to use ChatGPT?" And I'm like, "No." Like, hello, because even now, in college, like in just schools in general, I don't know if you've heard of like the Turnitin program. I think they've tweaked that to
Yep.
where it can start detecting like if certain parts of the essay were made with AI. And even on Twitter, I see people trying to animate with AI. And AI, when it comes to animation, it mostly really like kind of takes from like the Pixar, Disney Pixar style of
Right.
animation, except it's a lot more like warped and not that good things. I wouldn't
Not
say it's going to like really take over anytime soon, but they're trying.
right. Right. It's been a struggle for myself. I'm a writer, a content creator, and I know it's here. I
Yeah.
know it's not going away. I remember, 20 years ago when we first started talking about social media. That's probably way before your time, but the first platform that I remember being a part of was called 6 Degrees. And it was a way to share stories, writings, and pictures with family members and friends. And, that evolved into MySpace and Facebook and all the
Oh,
platforms we have now. And a lot of people at that time were, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm angry about this. It's just a trend. And I think a lot of people feel like right now that AI is just a trend, but it's not.
right.
It's no more a trend than the internet is,
Mhm.
right? It's not going away, but we need to be really careful and thoughtful and ethical when
Right.
it comes to the use of AI. And there are not a lot of regulations in place currently.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so some of these social media platforms like Facebook have jumped on the bandwagon with AI and have included it in everything. And if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Threads, there are little prompts to use AI in developing your content or writing a simple post or warping your pictures. I'm going to call it warping because
Right.
it isn't improving. That's for sure.
Mhm.
So I appreciate you bringing this to the attention of those of us that are interested in this and really want to heed the warnings of many artists and writers like yourself.
Right.
And I'm sure it wasn't easy to 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 decide not to move forward with the publisher. I'm sure there was a lot of heartbreak and soul searching and deep thinking about should I say no? And so I want you to know I don't know you. We have just met because I wanted to have you on the show.
Yeah.
But I want you to know as a fellow content creator how proud I am of you
Well, thank
for
you.
standing up and making a statement and challenging publishers in this way. So now you don't have a publisher.
Right.
What is the next step for you?
So the next step is self-publishing. I'm going to be self-publishing through Barnes and Noble, and I'm currently setting all that up now. I'm just waiting for my artist Spearmint to finish up the book cover, which she offered to like do for me for free, which is amazing of her because
Well, a big shout out to Spearmint.
like
That's amazing.
like big shout out to Spearmint because again like it was her art that was being paired with AI, and she's like been through as much as I have like
Sure.
this entire thing. So mad respect to her. That she's finishing up my book cover right now, and I plan on hopefully putting out some sort of announcement like in the next week because I do plan on having my book available and finished like with editing and everything sometime mid-July.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
So when you think about all you've gone through in the last year,
Mhm.
from graduation to, I mean, can you believe what you've been through? So from graduation to developing content,
Mhm.
getting this book ready to be published, the editing you've done yourself, the re-editing, the sharing, the getting feedback from individuals, going through your publisher, I'm going to call it a nightmare debacle, going through your publishing nightmare. Do you have any advice? I know you're not quite sage in this process, but do you have any advice for people that might be in your shoes, that the same shoes you were in last year, thinking about a project, wanting to become a writer or a content creator or an artist? What advice would you give them?
Right. So, like I said, I'm definitely not an expert. I've only been out of college for a year, and I'm only 24. I'm still learning about just how the world works. But my main advice to any other new authors out there is to defend your work as much as possible, because there are people out there who will try to like put smoke and mirrors in your face, like be like, oh, like, here's this great opportunity, we cater to people like you. And then at the last second, like, they'll just sweep everything under the rug just like that and make it seem like, oh, there's nothing you can do, which there is something you can do.
Right.
You can double down, say no, say that you're not going to associate, with them or market anything that, you've made, like if, they're going to continue their behavior, because at the end of the day, that company is shooting themselves in the foot, and they're going to be the ones losing money and any credibility because of their screw up. And oh goodness, what else? There's like probably so much that's like not even coming to mind right now. But essentially,
Well, that could be a post for you. Once you get this all underway, you could write your own essay, your own article, and publish that
right,
as a fair warning to other content creators out there, and folks that want to remain original and true
right,
to themselves and true to their art, whether it's writing, whether it is creating art, whether it's writing music or producing music or being a publisher. I'm
right,
sure that there are publishers out there that have stepped up and said, we are going to do right by the artists in the world, because that's where we've made our money and our own art, our own type of art, in
right.
producing and developing content for young developers or new developers or people like Stephen King who've been doing this for a long time.
And it
Right?
is funny that, oh, I'm sorry. It is
No,
funny
you go ahead.
it is funny that you kind of say that, though, because this morning I got a Twitter DM from someone who is currently trying to make their own publishing house, and they saw my Twitter thread, saw my story, and said like, hey, I'm looking for Black writers to
That's
bring on
amazing.
board. Unfortunately, I did have to decline just because like the wound is still fresh from everything that's happening,
Right.
and I'm trying to be very careful about like where I put my work.
I
Like,
am sure they understand that,
yeah,
especially as you have been so vulnerable in your posting and sharing out your story.
yeah,
I can't imagine those that you have helped. So many there. I'm sure there are many, many people that you have helped by doing this, and I know it's been heartbreaking, but I want to
right,
thank you again for having the courage, for being so brave and stepping up and telling this very traumatic story, but also life altering for you and future altering for all of us who are creators.
thank you. And that's the main thing. Like, even if this didn't have a happy ending, like I didn't get the rights to my book back, and that would have had my name on it for the rest of my life, I at least would want people to be aware of these situations. Because again, I had so many new authors about to sign with book publishers, and they were like, oh, now I know to look for this, because like this is a crappy experience and I don't want this to happen to me. And I will say that at the time of this recording, like I said before, as of yesterday, July 1st, I currently have the rights back to my book, and the public and my ex-publisher's version of my book is currently on its way to being deplatformed on multiple on multiple book sites. A few of them are international, so I'm not quite sure like how much I can really do with those. But
Right.
the international ones that I have been able to get in contact with, they seem very cooperative. It was on Apple Books, Smashwords, some other domestic sites that are currently like no longer carrying their version of my book on their websites. Yeah, I just wanted to like make that aware.
Right.
Yeah,
That's so we appreciate you sharing that, and I am interested to find out where you will be a year from now. I hope you will come back and revisit us on Real Words and tell us more about the story, the wrap up, the bang up job that you're going to do by getting it out on your own. What's after this? And tell us the name of this book again so we know to watch for it.
So it's called Brown Sugar Divines Cafe and Bakery.
Brown Sugar Divines Cafe and Bakery.
And it's going to be on Barnes & Noble in mid-July, and I'll be posting an official announcement of the release date, hopefully in the next week, once I get the new book cover.
Great. I'll share it out to the Real Words community too as soon as you let me know. What's next? After all of this, what's next?
So, what's next? Oh goodness, probably a bunch of things. I actually, at the time of this, I'm also about to set up another interview with a local magazine here in Denton, Texas. And along with that, I've got maybe 5 more books left in the chamber. Right now, 2 of them I do plan on releasing sometime this year. It'll be ideally October and December, depending on just where things go. Setting up book signings for Brown Sugar Divines Cafe and Bakery. Because a couple of the people that I did interview, they are local drag performers. So, I at least have them to back me up with any, events that, I happen to go to. The local Barnes & Noble is willing to work with me over here with book signings, local bookstores. Pretty much just, all that. I'm lucky enough to, have this much support, not just from family, but with friends and just community in general.
For those of us that are outside of Texas and have heard so many different things that goes on in Texas, especially when it comes to the LGBTQ community, has that made it more difficult?
I wouldn't say so. Now, I am fully aware of the fact that if and when my book does gain more popularity, there is going to be some backlash given the topic. Because, just the nature, around LGBT topics, especially the drag community, is still, unfortunately, very hostile, which, sucks. But again, this story is, not only very personal to me, but for, people who might be able to, relate to the main character's story, not just
Absolutely.
as a drag performer, but just, as an LGBT person in general, because the story itself contains, a lot of themes of, found family. It discusses topics of LGBT homelessness. I try to, keep it as light and as fun as possible, but it's still important to address, those issues that are still prominent, within the community. But even then, just from people who might not agree with, LGBT people, and even within the LGBTQ community itself, there's going to be backlash coming from all directions, no matter what. But personally, I am prepared for that because, and I spent a lot of time in research, sleepless nights on this. And this is something that I'm passionate about.
Well, I read a quote one time that said, be prepared to write the books that get banned.
Right.
And I feel like your book might be banned in some communities.
It might.
And that's okay. And that's okay.
I tell myself that if your book is banned, just from your existence as a person, you've done something right. So.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, my guest today has been S.A. McClellon. Sydney, thank you so much for joining me and for telling your story. I can't wait to purchase your book and to share it out when it's available. So make sure you let us know where we can purchase it when it's available, and I'll let my community know as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This has been an amazing experience.
Well, congratulations. I only predict great things for you. You're on the rise, and I'm happy to support you.
Thank you so much. And you too as well.
Thank you. We'll see you soon here on Real Words.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was made possible by Never Enough Media.